So I'll say that this chapter is better than the previous chapter. So that's an improvement. Getting into some pretty cool Izuku stuff. We're going back to Toga stuff for just a little bit, and then we're getting into Dabi and Shoto stuff. So let's get into it. The chapter starts with Deku flying over the ocean with a combination of float and fa jin. He is moving forward using air force, flicking the air to propel himself, but he is not as fast as he would like. So this is awesome. This is like, I'm sure, what a lot of us have wanted. And it's just really too bad that it's happening now. I mean, better late than never, of course, but you know, since this is the final arc, we're never really gonna get any like extended sequences of this stuff. I mean, I'm sure in the last couple chapters, he's gonna be using like all of his quirks to the max, and he'll be at the peak of his power, and it'll be pretty cool. But just in my opinion, at least, it would have been nice to gradually see him use this stuff rather than the way that it has been presented to us, which is like, oh, Izuku unlocked another quirk, he's going to use it for a couple chapters in this arc, and then we're just going to move on to the other stuff, and we're never really going to see that stuff again for a while. I haven't even seen any panels of this yet, but just thinking about this in my head, it's just so cool. This is like one of the core aspects of the series, you know what I mean? There are also no spots in the ocean where he can coil the black whip, so the faux 100% is also out of the question. So before I go further, let me just explain what he's doing in case you're unaware. So he's using Nana's quirk Float, which is as it sounds, and he's also using the third user's quirk Fa Jin, which is like a propulsion quirk pretty much, where he can like build up kinetic energy and then use it to like propel himself. There's other applications of it, of course, and various ways that he can use it, but this is like his preferred method of choice at this point. And then he's using air force. So he's quite literally flying at this point. And as for him saying that like there's no points for him to use Black Whip, to use faux 100%, where he kind of like slingshots himself using Fa Jin with the Black Whip. I mean, it's too bad that he just can't attach to the clouds the way that Doflamingo can in One Piece. It is at this moment that the ghost of the second user appears and tells Deku not to lose his composure. His current suit is not capable of withstanding the 100% of One For All, so it wouldn't be wise to damage it before he even reaches the battlefield. Deku says that this was not in the plans, which makes the second ask if the plans to use his quirk. He uses the old term meta ability. Okay, so this not being a part of the plan, of course, goes back to Toga grabbing Izuku as she was being pulled into the warp gate. He was originally supposed to be with the group taking on Shigaraki, but now we're getting into the second user's quirk, and this is reminding us that like, oh hey, you know, he still hasn't shown that yet. We're in like the final arc now, and we still haven't seen it. And of course, we all remember when I was mistaken a couple weeks ago, thinking that he had revealed it against All For One when he was with Aoyama, but of course I was mistaken, as I am a lot, and it was Aoyama shooting the laser. But that being said, my theory at least is that the second user's quirk is some kind of like energy blast or projectile from the hands or something like that. I don't know what the community is saying on this, but at least to me it just seems that way, because when we see the second user, he has like those Mega Man gauntlets, and also when he was saving Yoichi, he like pointed at him like he was gonna fire something at him. And as for him using the term meta ability, well, that's because he comes from, I guess, like 100 years ago or something. I don't know if we ever explicitly get the exact timeline, but since he existed around the time when Yoichi and All For One were doing their things, we know that it was around the dawn of the quirks, especially since in the previous chapter said All For One had been around since the advent of Extraordinary. Deku says yes, but the second user remembers that he had already asked Midoriya to consider this as the last possible option. Now that his quirk has been strengthened by One For All, it has become much more difficult to control than it was before. It may be that not even Deku can conquer it, and will end up becoming a hindrance. The second then asks him to trust his friends and take the safest path, even if it means taking a little longer to get there. So that's pretty interesting. If it is some kind of laser energy projectile, something like that, then it makes sense that it being strengthened by One For All, of course, would be super difficult to control, because he's like blasting like a massive Kamehameha out of his hand. And also him saying last possible option here might mean that we're not going to see him use this until like, you know, the final battle or whatever. But I was also kind of expecting Hatsume to like develop some kind of augmentation to his suit where the gauntlet could form from like his forearm arm or his wrist or something to give him some kind of contraption similar to what the second user had. So that when like he's ready to use the second user's quirk, it's just like, and then he fires it or something. I mean, why not? He already kind of had the augmentation for Air Force. And maybe that will come, but maybe not. We cut back to the aquarium where Ochako and Tsuyu comment on Deku's departure. Uh-oh, not passing the Bechdel test. Dabi feels relieved because while he was there, Deku would not be able to ignore Toga's questioning. Ah yes, her most powerful move, questioning. Soon after, Toga herself says that she has had enough of the 3 UA students. She is going to become who she wants to live according to her common sense. As she says this, she puts her hand in her blood compartments and thinks, isn't that right, Jin? Wow, so yeah, it is coming back to what we saw a couple chapters back, with Dabi revealing to Toga that he was able to save some of Twice's blood before he kicked the bucket. He gave it to Toga, knowing that she would be able to fully use it, because if she consumes the blood of the people that she loves, she can use their quirk. And in that panel, we saw the Sad Man's Parade, and as I've been saying in these last couple chapters, we're probably going to see the Sad Girls Parade. To close things out, Toga reaffirms her ideals. She says that she is Himiko Toga and that she doesn't need any more heroes, so it's time to say goodbye. Uravity strikes a fighting pose and says that she will also handle this situation the way she, Ochako Araka, thinks is right. The scene then cuts to Kamino, where huge flames consume the city. A giant Nomu is creating huge needles from its body and expelling them, giving the heroes a hard time. Dabi is hanging from the All Might statue while smiling, saying that he feels nostalgic because the sea of fire reminds him of the chaos in Hosu. Ida comes across a spiral of flames and shouts Shoto's name. He feels that he will not be able to get any closer without his engine ceasing to run. Dabi propels himself with explosions of fire at his feet and enters this spiral where Shoto, Kido, Onima, and Burning are. So these are like Endeavor's sidekicks. Dabi wonders if those sent to face him were only the youngest child, Shoto, and the 3 sidekicks. Onima tells Kido to stay away because his body has no resistance to fire, but he says that he is fine because he is manipulating the trajectory of the air around him. He has been working for Endeavor for more than 10 years and will continue to give his all to live up to his expectations. At this point, the bands come off and we see a little bit of his face. Vernon says that they don't know anything about the family situation, but they still trust Endeavor, and for that reason are now there to help Shoto. The boy thanks them and then turns to his older brother, saying that he is there of his own free will and not just because the plan ordered so. Dabi says that this only makes him a pawn of their father, and the younger boy replies that there's no way he could continue to be a hero if he ignored his brother's situation. Toya then concludes that this whole war comes down to personal issues and ideologies. It is the expansion of everything that has been built so far. He wants to change the current paradigm and destroy everything because he and the rest of the League are living proof of the wear and tear on society. On this page, we see Toga, Shigaraki, and Spinner, who is more muscular and drooling while holding his sword made of several blades. Shoto asks why he has not returned home if he survived the fire on Sokoto Peak, and Toya decides that it is finally time to tell everything that happened to him, the true origin of Dabi. End of chapter. Okay, I actually kind of forgot that this was a thing, and looks like we're getting into it, because while we do know most of Dabi's backstory, there are some missing links, like what happened after the fire on Sokoto Peak. Endeavor showed up afterwards and only found like a piece of his jaw. It's from that point to him showing up to the League of Villains that is not accounted for. So I guess we're going to see like him surviving the serious burns afterwards, and him building up his underground reputation possibly, and him eventually meeting Giran, because I'm pretty sure it was Giran, right, that like drafted him to the League of Villains. So yeah, we got that to look forward to. Let me know what you think about these spoilers in the comments, and if you like the video, guys, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.